All right, let's see if you guys can hear me. Let's see. Are you ready to start? I'm ready to start because I got a good topic tonight. Good topic for tonight. Um, 5 by 5. Awesome. Hey, can you believe it? We actually started good today. Praise the Lord for that. Awesome. Okay. Hey, 488. What's up? What's up, Toby? 952. Got you. I see you, my brother. Good. Awesome. All right, guys. So I'm excited to be here tonight to share all this wonderful stuff that I have for you. So I'm pretty excited and stoked. So we're in three stations right now. We're over here on my left on Facebook, here in front on YouTube, and then all of you over here on my right in TikTok world. So guys, thank you for joining us tonight for God's Prepared Warrior Roundtable Live. And in all of these spaces, I want you guys to be talking about the topics that we're going to be talking about tonight. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here tonight. So if you're new, what I like to do is I like to thank all of you because you guys are the ones who make up this channel, and I always talk about the channel news first and how the channel is growing because that is all because of you guys. And so I just want to share that with you because these are your accomplishments. So YouTube, we are sitting at 750 subscribers on YouTube. We are up 5 subscribers for this last week, which is pretty awesome, I think. On TikTok, over here on TikTok world, let's see, we are at 3,657 followers on TikTok. That's super awesome. I should be getting a lot of likes right there because you guys are awesome. We are up 17 new followers there on TikTok this week. That's pretty awesome. Facebook, we are up 1 follower at 166 on the Facebook page. On the Facebook community page, which is a very important community to me, over here on Facebook that's live right now, is 27 members there. So if you guys want to be part of the community, make sure you go to Facebook and look up in the group section, God's Prepared Warrior Community, and sign up for that. That's going to be pretty neat. Over on X, we're sitting at 1,043 followers, and we're up 5 this week there. On Instagram, remember last week I told you guys, Instagram is inching closer to the YouTube community, and Instagram is sitting at 676 followers there, and we're actually up 31 new followers on Instagram. So that brings us to a total of 86 new followers for this last week, which is super awesome. And I applaud you guys because you guys are the ones that are doing this. It's you guys that's sharing the live. You're sharing the videos, and you're commenting, and all of that works together, right? So guys, thank you for joining me tonight. We have a pretty good thing tonight. So next, I'm going to talk about the news in the world and kind of give you my take on it. You know, my whole hope for this part or this segment of my live is to just kind of bring you to some kind of awareness of where we are in the world just by some of the things that are happening. And a lot of times somebody always tells me, Fernando, I didn't even know that was happening. And so I want to put people in a mode of vigilance because I don't want people to just, you know, not know what's happening around them. And so this second segment of my live tonight, I always talk about the news and just kind of bring that out. And what I like for you guys to do is in the chat room where you are, what if you're TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook, is kind of like talk to each other. The one person over here that hasn't said hi yet on Facebook, they can chat with me and I'll answer them. And so, guys, let's talk about this stuff. And here we go. In news, longevity. Los Angeles Times says that the Gifford Fire consumes nearly 50,000 acres in Los Padres National Forest. So Sunday evening, there was a fire that was 3% contained and continuing to burn throughout the tall, dry grass and the chaparral. 3 people have been injured. The U.S. Forest Service said. So the Gifford Fire has scorched 50,000 acres in less than 3 days. So it's been on fire for 3 days, and it has burned a lot of forest and land, and so that's a pretty big fire that's happening over there. So let's keep those people in prayer. Um, it says the wildland firefighters are continuing to work to stop the blaze um, along Highway 161 in rural Santa Barbara and St. Louis. So it's a pretty big fire. It's scorched 50,000 acres. So let's keep those guys working that in prayer, and pray for those who have been hurt and injured. They get back and well soon. It doesn't really give any kind of information of what happened to them or anything. So the next piece of news comes from the Guardian. It says Texas governor threatens Democrats who left the state to prevent congressional map vote. So let me tell you what Greg Abbott has done today. He has come out and said that those Democrats who left Texas to not be here to put in a vote, he has said that if they do not return, that they will be imprisoned. So, um, that's a pretty big thing. I will tell you, you don't mess with Texas, and that is a real thing. Don't mess with Texas is not just a slogan, it is a real thing. So he's you know we were talking about, I was in a space a while ago with the group that I'm with, and we were saying, what if, because they were supposed to go live today from wherever they're at, and they were saying, what if Greg Abbott sends Texas Rangers over there where they are to arrest them and bring them home. So you know that would be awesome. That would really set a tone, right? So Texas is going through this redistricting, I think is, yeah, they're redrawing the lines. And so what that's going to do is going to make more room for more Republican seats in the House. So it's a big thing right now. So keep Texas in prayer. It needs a lot of prayer right now. Um, he also um, he also threatened them with removal from their office. So that's another big thing that has come out here in just the little bit of hours here since I've been looking at this. So yeah, Greg Abbott means business, and they want to get business done, and they can't if those guys aren't here, and so they actually need to be here. So yeah. All right, so this week, last week I talked about how, um, Russia, or I'm sorry, President Trump moved the battleships closer to Russia, and I knew that that was going to spark some stuff, but I didn't think it was going to spark the stuff that happened today. So Russia responds after Trump's nuclear submarine move, and it made him mad. So they're Putin is upset, and he and I've been saying it, right. Putin, when you look at what Putin is saying, he means business. He's not messing around. This is not a game. It's not. I hear a lot of 4D chess move. I get that, and that's part of war when you think about the war room scenario. But that's not what he's doing. He's doing something totally different, and he is really serious about what he's going to come out and say. I would venture to say that you can trust what he's saying for truth, right? He's not one to kind of like sugarcoat things. And so he's really upset about that today. And um, today, Russia came out that they're moving away from the nuclear forces treaty, and that's a scary thing because that kind of gave a buffer room for talks to happen before the ultimate thing, right? And so now that's kind of being removed, and so um, it's it's almost like football, right? You flip a coin, and who's going to go first, and that's what starts the thing. So you know this is something I think that we need to stay vigilant on, because um, our lives are at risk. I mean, our way of life, is really at risk, and you know, I am not afraid, or I am not fearful, right? I have confidence in the United States, in the country that I live in, to fight. I know that I have confidence in my fellow American because we have spirit, and I truly trust that. I know that my neighbors here, shoot, we'll get together and we'll form a band of brothers like really quick, and to defend. And so I think that in our preparedness, we need to be in the mode of creating community, and kind of building up help when help is going to be needed, right? So I think that is just so important. And when Putin says he's upset at what Trump did, because Putin's looking at it as a you know Trump is pumping his chest, and so he's looking at it in that way. And we gotta have to you know understand that he's not playing for it's not a game to him, in other words. So I think this is just important for us to keep an eye on, and to just kind of check and recheck and just kind of feel things out, right? Because something might happen, you just never know, right? um my prayer is that the Lord comes back before that, but who knows, right? Only God knows, right? So let's keep that in prayer. I know that's a big thing for Russia. So it's it says it will stop abiding by the missile treaty. So I think that's another thing, right? He was mad, and now he's now saying that they will stop abiding by that missile treaty. And so I just think it's something for us to pay attention to. So keep that on your radar. There's a manhunt for a Montana bar shooting suspect that continues, with up to a $10,000 reward offered for this person. So what happened was that this gentleman on Friday at around 10:30 a.m. His name is Michael Paul Brown, 45, allegedly walked into the Owl Bar and in the rural town of Anaconda, and he opened fire using a personal rifle, killing 4 local residents. Um, so they're on the manhunt for this guy. This guy is has I guess he ran away from the scene, and so they got him on video. They have a picture of him on the Yahoo News that I'm looking at. And so yeah, so there is a $10,000 reward for this guy. So if you know anything, if you have any family in Montana, that's the guy they're looking for. So his name is Michael Paul Brown, considered armed and dangerous. So it goes back to us talking about situational awareness, being in that mindset wherever we go, right? You know, to me, that's an important thing in how I live my life is knowing where I am and what's around me, who's around me, my ins and my outs, how to get in that place, how to get out of that place. And so, I think it's just important for us to um, be ready for anything, right? You always hear that from me. Hi, Grit and Grace. Welcome to the live tonight. Scott Hummer, welcome. Glenn Anderson, welcome. Ohio Valley Prepping, welcome tonight. Thank you guys for coming in. It's good to see all of you coming in over here on YouTube and those of you on Facebook. So thank you guys for joining. All right. So there's a manhunt for that guy. 10,000. You want some cash? $10,000 reward. All right. Who would turn down $10,000, right? All right. So here's the next bit of news. This is coming from the Independent. A baby was abandoned in a Tennessee yard. Cops are now hunting a suspect after finding 4 of her family dead. So apparently, there's a manhunt underway after this little baby was left and abandoned in a stranger's front yard, where her relatives were discovered murdered in a wooded area in Tennessee. So, um, the guy that they are looking for is Austin Drummond. He's 28, remains at large. And so there's another guy who is running away and is loose, and they're looking for him. So just be aware, guys, of what's happening around you. Make sure you have that situational awareness vest put on, and you're paying attention to what is happening. What was it last weekend? We had a guy who took out a couple on a trail in Arkansas, I think it was. I mean, this is not just, to me, it's getting more and more and more, right? We can always look back at the Bible, and the Bible tells us we're gonna see all of these things, and I truly believe that we're in that beginning stage of when Christ comes back. So we're in the birth pains, and so it's important for us in that meantime. That means that things are going to happen within that meantime before Christ comes, right? And Jesus tells his disciples there will be rumors of war, there'll be weather related events, right? I don't even think you guys you guys just don't know. But there's that, and then men are gonna be lovers of themselves. We see that. We're in that. And Jesus says that is the beginning, that is the birth pain of before he comes back. So if you're looking for a sign, there's your sign, right? So be in prayer for these families that have lost loved ones because of just people who aren't right. They're not right. All right, the next bit of news is coming from CNN. Attorney General Bondi orders prosecutors to start a grand jury probe into the Obama officials over the Russia investigation. So it looks like they're moving forward with uh, ex-President Obama and some of the things that he was doing. So Pam Bondi is pushing that out, and so probably here pretty soon we're gonna start seeing some stuff come from there. I mean, we already know, right? We live in a world where nothing is really hidden anymore. Not like before. I'm Gen X, so when I grew up, the only thing you knew what was happening in the news because there was no cell phone. There was none of that. I mean, yeah, we had the big huge brick cell phone, but I mean, even that didn't give you up to date news and things that were happening, right? So we just grew up knowing what came out in the morning, came out at noon, came out at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock. So that's how we found things out was later on. It wasn't like today, where things just you know happen, and we're looking at it and it's up to date. If you go to Google and in the Google search bar you type Google News, Google News will give you up-to-date news of what's happening in the world, in the US, in your town where you are. because it knows where you're at, right? And so, you know, all of that is running like on a ticker. And there are some websites that will say, I think when the Diddy trials were going on, this website would tell you this is the up to date, minute by minute information on the trial. So and so said this, and so said that, and and Diddy's a retard, that kind of stuff. And so anyway, it's up to date, like minute by minute. And so if you're paying attention, you will see all of these things. And so if you follow my TikTok page, you're like, Fernando, do you like sit on your phone and see all this stuff and comes out? No. It actually tells me, I get an alert. This is breaking news right here. And so if I think it's interesting and you guys need to know it, I'm gonna throw it on TikTok. 'Cause if you go to my TikTok, that's all you're gonna see. And so it's just my phone is dinging all the time because I have it set, because I'm being vigilant in that way with my phone, right? Are there days that I turn my phone away and not? Yes, there are days. There are days that I have to kind of like not look at my phone because it'll become, my third arm if I let it. So, yeah. We gotta be careful with that too. But I mean, information is just right here in front of us, so much. So so it's a big thing. All right. Here's the last news, and then we're gonna go into our topic for tonight. There is 2 unalived, 6 injured in a shooting following a party downtown Los Angeles. This was in Los Angeles today, and so it was a big thing. 2 people were unalived, and 6 others were injured in a mass shooting in an area of downtown Los Angeles where several parties took place overnight, and that's when this shooting happened. And it was real early in the morning on Monday, around 1 o'clock. And so, so let's keep these people in prayer. I'm going to tell you, okay? I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but if you would take the number of all of these happenings that happen like this at a bar, at a club, um, at a parade, at some kind of gathering, at a house party, whatever. And if you was to take each year and go backwards and see that number decline as you go backwards, knowing that as we move forward, that number continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So why I'm telling you that is I think that it's more important for us to be careful, to stay safe, and to think about where we're going and what we're gonna do, right? Uh, Going back to situational awareness, right? So that we're not in a spot where we're putting ourselves in harm's way, right? So I just kind of think about things in that way, and I'm not a recluse. I just I don't like blood coming out my body, right? And so, so I'm just gonna, stay away from that kind of thing. Hi, Shelly, welcome, welcome to the live tonight. And so, I just think in that way. I think in the way of how am I going to protect not just myself but my wife and my kids when we're out with my kids. I always sit in a spot where I can see all the exits. I can see what's happening outside because in the event that in that moment where we're at a restaurant or whatever, if poop hits the fan in that moment, that Fernando is going to be ready, and he's gonna he's gonna stop, assess the situation, and then move forward from that point. Um, um, Fire projectile in hand, ready to go, right? So, um, we have to be in that mode. It's sad. It's sad that we have to, because I go back and I look back at my youth, I look back at my childhood, and it was hardly that I was aware of, right? I was little, but there was hardly, things like the things that are happening today, right? So it's just important. Um, Problem is, says I'm the same way. Yeah, I mean, you have to be. You have to be that way because it's just there's insanity in our world, and I think it's just important for us to stay vigilant to those things. All right, so I want to move into our topic for tonight, and the um, the title that I put here is "When the Weather Roars." When the weather roars. Try to say that 10 times fast. And what's really going on with that, right? I want to talk about all of these things that are happening in our world, and there are a lot. Trust me, there's a lot of things happening, right? Um, you know, uh, there is so many disasters that are happening today. From the flooding here in Texas, in Kerrville, in Hunt, and Ingram, and there was San Saba, all of those places. San Angelo was flooded, and there was a few more places here in Texas that were flooded. But the main one was in the hill country because of the Guadalupe River. So I want you guys to, I want us to put our weather hat on, whatever weather hat you have, whether that's, hey, that's a cloud, that's a weather hat, right? Because, it's not just the flooding, it's the wildfires that are happening in California, it's the tornadoes that are happening in the Midwest, it's the the East Coast, right? When we had the hurricanes, North Carolina and places, and also in Florida. All of this weather is just gathering and gathering. Volcanoes erupting, earthquakes happening, triggering tsunamis, and I mean, all of these things are happening. And why are they happening? I've been asking myself here recently, why are they happening? Some questions I have is this just normal? Climate stuff. Is it normal climate stuff, or is it something more? Right? What does My other question is, what does God's word say? Right? Because I always go back to God's word and look for signs. Right? Maybe in nature, maybe the Bible gives us a clue or something there. Right? And how do we, as God's prepared warriors, how do we respond, to that situation, practically and spiritually? How do we do that? What does that look like, right? And so what I see is that there is a pattern of disaster. Okay, in 2025, I want you to check this out. I pulled some numbers, and I think this is really really important for some things here. So let's look at this. In 2025, right? That's the year we're in. If you're not paying attention, uh, this is the record of flash floods that we've had in the U.S. and we're barely in August. Okay, that's one number. Bullet and lady, be nice to each other. The other number is, check this out. There's been, since January, there's been 3,600 flash flood warnings by July. This is up to July, okay? And more than most full years. Get this, 3,600 flash flood warnings just up to July. But in all of the other years, okay, that is more than a full year. In other words, 1 year could have been 500. 1 year could have been 1,000. This year, since up to July, we're sitting at 3,600 flash flood warnings. Guys, that's a lot. This is the thing that has brought to my attention is all of this, right? We've had historic storms in Texas, in Kentucky, in Appalachia, and the Mid-Atlantic. We've had terrible weather in the Carolinas and Florida, wildfires in California, right? January, wildfires in Oregon, wildfires even in New Jersey. Even Texas had wildfires this year, and also up in Canada, right? I think it's still kind of burning up there. Wildfires everywhere, right? Tornado outbreaks, right? Um, in March and April that just caused billions of dollars in damage. Power grids going out and dams going out, people without power. Um, and all of that is getting overwhelmed, and it's happening everywhere. There is a pattern of disaster, and if you sit and you look at it, if you're vigilant to it, you can see it. And so, as I'm telling you, it's still blowing my mind away of all the stuff that has happened just up to July this year, and you can see the pattern, and it's a big pattern, right? These are not just isolated events; they're frequent, they're fast, and they're furious, right? And so the question is, are we paying attention? This is what I want to ask you guys, and I want you guys to chat this out with each amongst each other, right? Salt Miss is ready to chat you guys up on this, right? Um, you know, I want you to think about that. Are we paying attention, or are we going outside and it's just another day of rain, and then all of a sudden you see cars floating down the road, you see people floating down the road, and then you have the occasional Fernando who's probably on a surfboard or on some jet skis going down the road. I mean, it is insane, right? Are we truly paying attention to what is happening? Are we looking into the sky? Because when I look into the sky, I always see an airplane blowing out chemtrails, right? I always see that happening in our skies, right? I always, just recently, if you watch the Sean Ryan show on YouTube, he had the guy who is, putting the chemical in the air. Oh yeah, we cloud seeded that day of, the flood in Kerrville, and so there's the contributing factor, right? So the question I have for you is, are we really paying attention to what is happening, right? I get my phone and I have two apps that I use for the weather. And I have taken the step to learn and be a storm spotter. I've taken a course through the Weather Service to do that, and I can take that information on the radio and communicate that over my comms. Right, I can create a net and talk all about the weather in my area with my group, and we can stay safe and check on each other and that kind of thing. So, are we really paying attention, right? So that's the question that I have for you, and I would like for you guys to chat about that. The next thing I want to remind you of is that we can always go to see what the Bible says, right? Luke 21:25 says that there will be signs in the sun, there will be signs in the moon, there will be signs uh, in the stars, right? On the earth, nations will be in anguish. I think that's where we are, right? And perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Isn't the sea roaring and tossing, right? Just from the earthquake that hit just outside of Russia the other day, right? I mean, that's just crazy. That's insane. That's Luke 21:25. Jeremiah 51:16 says, when he gives voice to the storm, the waters roar. He makes the clouds rise from the ends of the earth. Isaiah 24:4 says, the earth moans and withers. The world languishes and withers. The highest people of the earth languish. Here's what I want to tell you about that. These disasters are reminders, okay, that God uses natural signs to get our attention. That if you read the Bible, that's what you're going to find out. that God uses natural signs to get our attention. The Bible says creation groans, right? In Romans 8:22. Creation groans. We're seeing those groans, right? We're seeing those groans in the fire, through the fires that are happening. We're seeing those groans in the floods that are happening. We're seeing those groans in the storms, and even in the heat wave, right? I mean, if you live in Texas, it's hot. I will tell you that it is hot, and I'm gonna pick on Salt Miss because she's probably experiencing 65 degrees today. I'm probably way off, but she is not boiling hot like we are, you know, down here in Texas. And so that's important. Mountain Rainiers having big storms from the understanding they aren't super concerned right now. Oh, Paul Miss, you were at 81. Man, that's a cold front here in Texas. I'm just saying. That's awesome. Yeah. Glenn got his AC working again. Thank the Lord. Um, Glenn is sitting cool. Yeah. So it's important because it's we have to go to God's word. We have to be able to understand. God knows where we are. He knows what we're going through. He knows that these things are happening. He knows that we're probably even worried about those things, but we don't move in fear. We don't prep out of fear. We prep out of faith. We move in faith, right? And so it's not even just about science either, right? It's about spiritual. Um, it's a spiritual thing that has happened, right? So what should our response be to all of these things that are happening? Fernando, I wasn't paying attention to the weather, but since you're talking about it now and you brought out the numbers, and those numbers are better than the job numbers, I'm aware now. Okay, what do we do? What is our response as God's prepared warriors, right? Number one, I model it for you, right? Um, but 70s the rest of the week. Okay, Saltmus, rub it in. Rub it in. So, I want to model it myself, and I do that on my social media. Is I am aware. I want you guys to be aware of what is happening around you, right? It's important for us to keep an eye out for each other. It's important for you to keep an eye out for your family. It's important for you to know those things, right? To be on alert, not just in a situational awareness, but when it comes to weather. You know, um, I am on top of this weather thing, and I ride a motorcycle, and I will not ride when it is raining. That is just you're asking for it if you do that. I will not ride at night because you're asking. My bike is all black, so the only thing you're going to see are the lights in the front and the one light in the back at night, and that's not good. People, we've had in the last 2 weeks, I think we've had 4 or 5 motorcycle accidents on our highways here where I live, and they all resulted in death. And so, you know, we have to be aware of where we are. We have to be aware of the weather that's happening around us. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. You know, hurricane is going to hit the Texas coast. And guess what? Even the people on the Texas coast, there are some people who wait till the last minute, and the storm is already right there on the beach, and they're still boarding up their windows. They're still boarding up their doors. They're still going to the grocery store because they hadn't gone yet. They're not aware, and they get caught, right? Um, this is no shade on the people that lost their lives in Kerrville. I'm praying for those families, and I support those families. My job is supporting that. But I am one who looks at weather, and if I am scheduled to go camping, like I do, I'm not going to go if there's a threat for torrential rain and flooding. I'm just not going to do it. I'm aware to that. That's what I'm saying. We need to be aware. This is our response as God's prepared warriors, is to be aware to what is happening, right? Uh, when winter comes, right? Salt is experiencing winter right now. Uh, when winter comes, you should be right now, like this week here where I live. This week in the suburban area that I live, it is brush pickup. And what does that mean? People go and they trim their trees, they cut the bushes, and they put all that refuse out in front of their house, and the city comes by and picks it up. Guess what Fernando does? Fernando gets in the truck, and him and his wife, Mrs. G, and we go around and we pick up firewood that people have already cut for me. And I pick up the logs and we throw them in the back of the truck, bring them home, and we sock them. And so, I have a rotation of wood that's ready to go. I have a section that the wood is seasoning, right? It's not ready for processing just yet. And then there's that green that's it's not even it's brand new, right? Just got cut. And so, throughout the year, that's moved, right? And so every time that there's a brush pickup, if we got room for it, we'll go out and get it, right? So we'll always have a source of fuel for the fireplace, for the barbecue pit, for whatever, right? And so, we have to be aware of that, right? We have to know that when winter is coming, yeah, if we have central heat and air, yeah, we got that. But what if it snows out of the blue like it did in Texas? Because we've never seen snow before. And then all of a sudden it's so much snow that we don't know how to drive in it. Everybody's crashing and everybody's getting stuck on the highway and they can't move now and their car's not prepped. And so they don't have a blanket, they don't have water, they don't have a way, they don't have food in there, like, maybe some what do you call those cardboard bars, cardboard bars that you can eat flavored. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Nobody's got none of that in their car, and so they're stuck, right, miles from home, and they can't go anywhere, right? Or, you know, they run their gas all the way down, and they're headed to someplace. I did a video. It was one of my, I think it was a Monday video, a while back. I'm stuck in traffic because there's construction and an accident all at the same time, and they're getting people to ride on the shoulder, not even on the second lane. It's on the shoulder and the grass, so that you can pass the wreck, and then you can get to the one lane that's open for the construction, right? And so I did a video while I was driving because I was stuck in traffic, and I talked about how it's important for Fernando to run with a uh, the half tank mentality. My truck gets to half a tank, I go fill it up because I'm not going to get stuck. I am aware. Okay. The next thing is we should have a plan. You should have a plan for your family. You should have a comms plan. You should have a bug in plan. If you're going to bug out, you have a second location to go to. Thank the Lord for that first, and then you should have a plan on how you're going to get there, right? Because if poop hits the fan, whatever capacity, traffic traffic is going to be like this, right? And you're going to need multiple plans on how to reach that destination. You got to have a plan. You have to have a food plan. You have to have a water plan because you can't be without those things because you will not make it. So if you haven't prepped any of those things, yesterday was the best day to do it. Today's the next one, and it's almost over already. So get to prepping, right? Got to have a plan. Got to be aware. Got to have a plan. You got to keep your kit current, whatever kit that is. If that's a get home bag, it's got to be current. If that is your vehicle kit, it needs to be current. If that's your bug out bag, it needs to be current, right? All of that needs to be current, right? You need to rotate your water. If you're stockpiling water, rotate it, right? If you have a water gathering system, Not only do you have to rotate it, but you have to treat it, right? So you don't just collect water and drink the rainwater because you'll get sick. Montezuma, I'm just saying. So rotate that water. If you take medication, you should be asking the doctor for 3 months supply. That's what I do, and I just you'll keep it. And so you should have that. Make sure it's rotated, right? You should have batteries. You should have a way to charge, your phones and things like that. Don't procrastinate. You need to have those things because even if you have them, make sure that they're charged, right? If you have a power supply, it's good to have it, but if you only have it locked up in the closet, then what good is that? Because when poop hits the fan, it's not going to be ready to be used. You know what I mean? So you got to have a plan. You got to be aware. You got to keep your kit current, right? Don't procrastinate on that, right? And here's the next thing: you should be helping others. I have come across a lot of friends through my GMRS net meeting, and there are a few that the Lord has said, Fernando, talk to that individual, give them your phone number, talk to them, see if they need anything, right? And so I've been doing that. I've been, reaching out, and I have been creating community here where I live. I was, talking to my best friend the other day, and I said, I think it's time. I think it's time for us to start the mutual assistance group, and I think it's time to now bring people together here where I live and start building that community in that way. And so, that's important to me because God has told me to help those, right? We want to always check on our neighbors. We always want to check on the elderly and those that are vulnerable in a time of crisis, right? If there's flooding in my area, I'm going to do that. If there's a heat wave happening, I'm going to do that. If it decides to dump snow in Texas like it did the last time before, I'm gonna look to my neighbors and my family, my friends, and make sure that they are okay because we should be helping other people, right? The next thing is for a practical response is adapt, just adapt, right? Prepare for more frequent and more severe weather, right? Because we're talking about weather tonight. We should prepare for that, right? Maybe it's you downloading these apps and paying attention to the weather that's coming in. It's not really hard. If you don't watch the news, and I know a lot of younger people don't watch the news, and so there's an app for that, right? Download the app, pay attention, get the radar app because that's going to tell you minute by minute by minute where that weather is going, how fast it's coming, and how much time do you have to respond, right? So adapt because there's going to be more frequent and more severe weather that is coming our way. So that's how we should respond as God's prepared warriors in a practical way. How should we respond in a spiritual way? Number one, we should pray first. This is just something that the Bible tells us to do. It is pray for all things in all seasons. Pray without ceasing, right? This is what we find in the Bible, right? Um, Psalms 121 says, I lift up my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, right? Our spiritual response, number one, should be to pray. Second, we should stay rooted in God's word. That is just so important. Matthew 7:24 through 27 talks about building your house on the rock, right? Everything that we do should be on a firm foundation of Jesus Christ. And when we build our house on the rock, the winds can come, the waves can come, and it won't move it, right? Um, I had a conversation about that with somebody one time, and they said, "But Fernando, if I pull out a gun right now and I shoot you, you're gonna die." And I said two things first. I said, number one, Bible says that no weapon formed against me will prosper. And I said, and even if it does go off and it does hit me and it does kill me, guess what? I go to heaven because that's where I'm putting my stake in my eternity is in heaven. And I am working toward that goal. And if anything takes me out, it really wasn't you, because God allowed it, and because it was time for me to go home. And so, am I worried or afraid? No. Mm-mm. Because I know God's word and I know what it says. And so that's pray first, stay rooted. The next thing is walk in discernment, right? Don't just prep your pantry, prep your heart as well, right? Put those things that we find in God's word in our heart. Let them come out of us, right? When things happen, we know that God is our provider because his word tells us. If we feel alone, we're never alone because he will never leave us nor will he forsake us, right? So we're never alone. That's a feeling that the enemy is trying to lie to you about, that you are alone when truly you're not. God is with you always, right? So walk in discernment. Prep your heart for what is about to happen, whether that's weather related, whether that's pooping in the fan, whatever that looks like. If it's loss, if it's job loss, your marriage, your family, your kids, all those things. Walk in discernment and prep your heart in those things. Stay rooted in God's word. Pray for those things, right? The last one is we should encourage others in chaos, whatever that is. If it's a loss, if it's somebody being sick, somebody in the hospital, in that chaos, we need to be the light. We need to be the light for those people. If they're sick in the hospital, we need to intercede for them in prayer, asking God to heal them, because we serve a healing God, right? We serve that healing God. And so we should be encouraging others. In chaos, we should be the light for other people. So, in the comments down there, guys, I want you to answer these questions. What disasters hit close to your home recently? Do you feel a spiritual warning in what you're seeing? And what's one way you can you can practically or spiritually prepare um, for what we're talking about tonight? Talk about that in the comments. But we're coming here to the end. So, we don't fear storms. I don't fear storms. I don't. I prepare for them. I know that they're coming because I'm vigilant, right? And I'm prepared, right? I look at all the things that have happened around me, Kerrville, Center Point, um, um, Hunt, Texas, Ingram, Texas, all those places. I look at all of those things and I ask myself, Fernando, would you be ready for that kind of a thing? And if not, if I say no to that, then what is my next steps to be prepared for that thing? I know that where I live, if there's any flooding, it's going to be on the on the main road that's up the road here, and it always floods. And it flooded just the other day on Saturday after we were through with the coffee trailer. I was coming home. It started to rain, and it came. I couldn't see anything, and that road that I was driving on had at least 2 feet of water in it, and so it can accumulate really fast where I live because it's hot and the ground is so dry and the ground doesn't soak it up fast enough. So keep all of that in mind. We don't fear storms, we respect them, right? We respect them, but we don't fear them. Why? Because our hope isn't in the calm weather. I want you to get that. Our hope is not in the calm weather. Our hope is in Jesus. That's where our hope is. And God is the one who guides our steps, right? My favorite verse, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge him. In other words, thank him for everything, and he will direct your steps. So important. Whether the storm is outside your door or raging inside, right? The storm, it could be raging inside your soul, right? God is our refuge. He is our refuge and he is our strength. And he is a very, very present help in trouble. This is Psalms 46:1. So, warriors, stay ready, right? Yes, there are a lot of things happening. Yes, Jesus said these things were going to happen, but it's just the beginning. We're in the birth pains of those things. So we're not to worry about those things because the time is not ready for that end, right? We're just in the beginning of it. So guys, we keep moving. We keep moving. We don't worry about what's happening. We trust the Lord with everything, right? So stay ready, guys. Stay awake. Keep your eyes on the skies, but keep your heart rooted in the Lord. And that's the most important thing, right? So, guys, I just want to thank you guys for joining me tonight. I hope that this was at least interesting in some way, and maybe it brought some thoughts or questions you might have. Feel free to shoot me an email. I'll answer you. You can email me at godspreparedwarrior@gmail.com. And just hey, yeah, Fernando, I have a question about this. Send me an email. I'll answer you. Salt Miss will tell you. So just send me an email and we'll talk about it, right? I'll even call you, right, Glenn? Glenn gave me his number, and so we communicate often. So, all right, guys. So have a good night. Thank you for joining the Roundtable Live. I'm excited. I look forward to next Monday when we can come back again and talk. Thank you guys over here on TikTok for joining me. Thank you for all the gifts and the hearts that you guys have pumped out on the live. Hey, Mijo, I see you on there, and you guys over here on Facebook, and of course you guys in the YouTube community. Thank you guys for joining me here. Have a great night, guys. God bless. I'm praying for you, and remember, stay vigilant and always stay prepared. God bless. Have a great week. Bye bye.